Hey everyone, welcome to Watertown Ford's all-team meeting. My name is Emily Damon and I am the chair of the steering committee for Watertown Ford. And today's meeting is a way to, if you're already volunteering with Watertown Ford, to get to know each other a little bit better, hear about what some of the different committees are doing. And if you're not currently volunteering and you've come to some of our charter chats or other events, this is a way to hear a little bit more about who Watertown Ford is and ways that you can get involved a little bit more deeper. So before we jump right into the meeting, I want to go over the agenda really quickly, and we'll begin with some introductions, get to know each other, then have an update from the steering committee, an update from the outreach and engagement committee and the education committee, and then wrap up and talk about some upcoming events. There'll be plenty of time to we're gonna have some discussion and spend time talking and getting some ideas on, what you might have about Watertown Ford and some ways that we can work on this together. And so for the beginning portion, we just ask that you keep your mics muted while you're not speaking. And when we do open up for discussion, we're going to try to keep the conversations to about 2 minutes per person if possible. And that way we can just hear from as many people as possible today. But before we jump into the steering committee, I wanted to go around and have people quickly introduce themselves and say your favorite thing about Watertown. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen for this moment so we can actually see everyone's faces. So if you have a camera, feel free to turn it on. If you can't, that's okay. And also really quickly, this meeting is being recorded. So we can share this with other volunteers and members of the public at a later time. So what we're going to be doing is going through saying our name and our favorite thing about Watertown. So I'll begin and then I'll pass it on to the next person. We'll just pass it around the room. Again, my name's Emily Damon, and my favorite thing about living in Watertown is that it's so close to the river and there's a beautiful bike path that I can bike along the Charles River. I'll pass it on to Janice Hudson.
Hi everybody, my name is Janice. My favorite thing about Watertown, it's a toss-up between Russo's and being really close to the city.
How about we'll pass it on to Tyler Kemp Benedict next.
Tyler, and I think one of my favorite things is definitely the library.
That's great. Larry Raskin. Oh, Larry, you're muted.
Sorry, Larry Raskin. Many things about Watertown. One of my favorites is buying food.
Merle?
Merle Kummer. So far, my favorite thing about Watertown has been the Kingian response team and these meetings and the chance to get engaged.
That's great. We'll pass it on to Tony Palumba.
Thank you. I think the favorite thing about Watertown is the fact that it's so centrally located to Boston and other parts of it. Just sort of seems you can get around very easily.
Alice.
Oh, so many things, but Watertown Farmers Market and the new rep.
And then let's pass it on to Mark. Yeah, Mark.
Here we go. Hi, Mark Ruszkiewicz. What's my favorite thing about Watertown? Certainly Russo's, closeness to the river, closeness to Boston's, but also its ethnic and income diversity.
Great, thank you, Mark. I'll pass it on to Angela.
Hello. In addition to everything else, I'll echo the deep commitment to social justice that I find among our residents and to anti-racism.
Thank you so much, Angela. Marcy.
Hi, I'm Marcy Merningham, and echoing what other people say, but without a doubt, my favorite thing about Watertown is that it is the root of the American experiment. And passing by those markers where George Washington and the first town meeting place just gives me the chills and the commitment to make our union more perfect or contribute to that.
Thanks, Marcy. Pass it on to Marcia.
Thank you. I'm Marcia Ciro. I think what I've always liked about Watertown is that it's kind of in between. You know, it's not really a suburb. It's not like a boring suburb like Stoneham, where I grew up. And it's not really, you know, a city. It's not really as much of a congested city as Cambridge. It's kind of in between, and it just has sort of the best of all of that. So, what I like.
Thanks, Marcia. Samantha.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. I am fairly new to Watertown, but I would echo some of the stuff that I think it was Marcy said. I love the history, reading about the Armenian migration and reading about the history of hood rubber and PF flyers and all the rich history that is still alive here. I really like that.
That's great. Thank you. Pass it on to Tia. Tia, you are muted.
Here to tell you the space bar trick doesn't work. Thanks for the chat idea. My name is Tia, and I am particularly fond of the tahini bread at the Armenian markets.
Great. That sounds amazing. I'll have to check that out. Pass it on to Daniel.
Hey everyone, my name is Dan D'Amico. My favorite part about Watertown is the location and not being in the city, but also not being in the middle of nowhere either. The library, and a shout out to the soccer community as well in town.
That's great. Liz.
Hi everyone, nice to be here. I would say the friendly neighbors and just getting to know people on their porches and the crossing guards, and now all of you.
Luis.
I'm trying the space bar. It's working. Well, everyone has said all my favorite things already, and I'll just say again, there's a kind of interesting mix of people. Most of them I like. And it's just an unpretentious, down-to-earth kind of place.
Steve Owens.
Hi, Steve Owens. I would say if it's not pandering, I'd like to say that my favorite thing is all the people I've met over my time in Watertown.
Wonderful. Thanks, Steve. Deborah.
I think Watertown's a nice small size, and it's dense, and it's the kind of place where you get to know somebody in one context, and lo and behold, you run into them in another context. So it really feels like a town.
Definitely. Shanti.
Hi, I also really love the library and the hand-pulled noodles at Home Taste. But I would say it's also the community I found through the Buy Nothing group that I'm part of. That's been really nice.
That's great. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ryan. Many things to like about Watertown. I guess my favorites, the riverfront. Absolutely love the riverfront. And I like the town feeling and the multiple flavors of our community.
Janet.
Hi, I'm Janet Jameson, and I was going to say people. That's my favorite thing about Watertown.
That's great. Robin.
Hi everyone, I'm Robin. I'd say also the people are my favorite. I love that everyone says hi when walking by, and my neighbors have all really stepped up and been awesome people to get to know.
Nancy. Nancy Hammett. We are, and for those of you who just joined us or maybe missed the beginning, we are going around and introducing our name, saying our names and our favorite thing about Watertown.
Okay, Nancy Hammett. People have already said, I think, all of my favorites, including the river, the people in my neighborhood, the people I've met in all sorts of activities over the years. So I guess I'll add the half price app feature at Not Your Average Joe's between 3 and 6 on weekdays at the bar, which I really miss.
We'll have to go sometime when we're all back in person together. That's where we'll end up.
But I always did on the way to a meeting at Town Hall. I miss it.
Alana. Alana, you are muted.
Excuse me, bad one there. My name's Ilana, obviously, and I think I agree with the things a lot of people already said, so I'll just add specifically that I really appreciated the connections I've made through the time my son was in the schools, and all the different people I met from the family network up through high school, dealing with, you know, lots of different people and everybody through the school system. Thank you.
Thanks, Alana. Sue Ellen.
So I would say it's similar to what others have said, but the intimacy of Watertown, given the size and the way one is able to get to know people and shopkeepers because of that. And then the second thing that's really important to me is the incredible activism in our community and people that I love working with.
Great, thank you. Ted.
The river, which has been mentioned by my wife, among others, and our neighborhood, which I love.
Thanks, Ted. Lisa.
Thanks. Yeah, all the same things people have mentioned. Initially moving here, the location, the riverfront, but what's kept us here all these years is the people. And I also love that we were able to walk to all the schools, given the small size physically of our town.
Thank you. Catherine.
Hi. I just moved about a month ago to Watertown, and I also enjoyed being right by the river, but also being able to walk to a bunch of different shops and other places. Very convenient.
Welcome to Watertown. And Jackie. Jackie Van Leeuwen.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
What do I like about Watertown? I'm close to my family. I'm close to my job. It's a very nice town. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Great. I know everyone has said a lot of great and wonderful things about living here, and I want to make sure that I caught everyone. So has everyone gone yet? I was trying to go through the list on the participants. Anyone haven't gone? Okay. Wonderful. Well, I feel like I got to know a few of you a little bit better. There's a lot of you here, and so thank you so much for joining. I'd love to hear a lot more about each and every one of you. So, you know, someday when we're back in person, we can all, like I mentioned earlier, meet Nancy up at Not Your Average Joe's and connect that way. So I am going to switch back to my slide deck here. I think everyone should be able to see that. And since we have a bunch of new faces, which is so amazing, I wanted to begin by introducing Watertown Ford's steering committee members and going just a quick overview of who Watertown Ford is, what we do, why we do it. So just to quickly begin, the steering committee members for Watertown Ford include myself, Marcy Morningham, Tony Palumba, Janice Hudson, and Nicole Gardner. And Watertown Ford, what are we? We are a group of Watertown community members who are interested in education and informed public engagement around the charter review process. So our goal is to educate, empower, and engage the Watertown community to help drive positive change and get more involved within the charter review process. Watertown Ford is a nonpartisan organization, and recently we've been hosting charter chats and sending out information about what's happening and trying to get people more involved in joining the charter review committee meetings. You'll hear a little bit more about that later, but the idea is that that the government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And so this is an opportunity to help shape the future of our local government and city for the next 10 years and beyond, really. So Watertown Ford is made up of 3 committees. We have a steering committee that kind of oversees everything and helps shape and drive the large ship that we are. We have the Outreach and Engagement Committee and the Education Committee, and both have some working groups to help do more day-to-day tasks, and they'll all share that in much more detail later, but it's just a basic outline of what Watertown Ford is. So right now we have really been focusing on some internal communications, helping guide some processes for our current volunteers as the steering committee, helping guide that through our internal communications, which is Slack. We also have some current engagement opportunities, including the bi-weekly charter chats, which I think I've seen some of you there. So, and maybe that's why when you heard about this meeting, but that is a place where people can get together, talk about issues within, talk about the charter review committee meetings that happened. Our last charter chat, we talked about the mayor-manager conversation that's been happening at the CRC meetings. And we also work on some external communications like MailChimp and our website and Facebook groups to get the message out to people. So I want to just open it up really quickly for some quick questions, and I'm going to turn it over to the other 2 committees who provide so much of the work that we do. Yeah, let me see if I can. Alana?
Is the website working?
Yes. So
when I tried to connect a couple of times, it seemed like the website wasn't working, just the Facebook page was working.
Oh, thank you so much for letting us know, Alana. Our website is up and running at watertownford.org.
Okay. Not right now, but could somebody check on that and check the various links to it in different places? Because maybe it is, but the links are not right.
Okay, yeah, definitely. We'll definitely take a look at that. Thank you so much. If you ever see any issues or have problems getting access to certain links on our website, feel free to email us at forwardwatertown@gmail.com, and we'd be more than happy to fix that as soon as possible. I will definitely take a look at that and make sure that we.
I'll see if I can check now, but
yeah,
it's hard while we're trying to listen to.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Merle.
When citizens become interested in making a proposal and actually providing concrete input, what role would Watertown Forward take?
And sorry. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sorry, it's easier to see your faces this way, so we'll go this route. Yeah, so if you have a specific proposal in mind, we can help by, we don't actually, we don't help you necessarily, like, we're not, we are not like going to the CRC on your behalf. We would suggest that you can contact your counselor, a council member, or email the CRC directly. And we provide resources on how to do that. So, for example, sometimes we'll say, if you're interested, or if you have questions about the CRC, use here's their email address, and you can submit any of your proposals to them that way. So that's really Watertown Forward's goal, is to help facilitate discussion, collaboration, educate the public on what's happening. But because we're not taking stances on policy issues, we can, want you to pass that on to the CRC members specifically.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question.
Just about time, Emily.
Perfect. Give room for one more question, otherwise we can move on to.
Oh, no, you got one more question, sure.
Oh, actually, sorry, that was Alana. So, all right. If there are no more questions, I'll pass it on to the.
I think you're on mute, Alana. I think Alana had another
Yeah,
question.
thanks. I did it again. I'm sorry, just an update. So I just checked and the website is working, but there was no information about this meeting on the website. This meeting was only listed on the Facebook page.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Alana. Yeah, we'll try to keep up with that,
In events.
future meetings. Yeah.
I saw it listed in events.
In events. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Tyler. Okay. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And I'm going to pass it on to Janice, who will be walking us through the Outreach and Engagement Committee.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time on a Sunday to have a chat about politics. We win the award. Yes, thank you very much for coming. My name is Janice Hudson, and I'm a member of the Outreach and Engagement Committee, along with the list of people. If you will click the next slide, Emily, thank you. Along with these wonderful people here, 9 other people besides myself. And inherent in our title of Outreach and Engagement, our role is really to raise awareness and to spread the word in town. And we link arms with our Ed Committee, who you'll hear from next, in order for other people's voices besides the people just here today, making sure everyone's voices are heard, or they're at least aware of what's happening with the charter review process. You can switch. Perfect. So these are the 4 main things that we have accomplished of late, and we'll dive in briefly into each one. The first one is our website. So perfect segue. Thank you, Alana. The website is, you can click the next slide, Emily, just so they can peek. This is our website link, and it's fairly new. It's been live for, I think, just shy of 3 weeks, and we are still working out some of the kinks. Nicole Gardner is one of our O&E members, and she is the one who developed the website, and she's working very diligently to update it and to work out any kinks that are happening. So we do appreciate feedback. If something isn't working, please feel free to email Forward Watertown, and that helps us a lot actually in this phase. And we're also still figuring out the best way to get information to the public. We do have an events page, but as you can see, unless you go and dive in, you don't necessarily see on the main page what's happening right when you hit the website. So that's all great feedback for us. But we do have a lot of great information on there right now. We have all of our information and resources under the Info and Resources tab, and we're adding more and more each week, which includes things like updates. We have minutes for our charter chats. We also have links in there to the town website for various documents and updates. The CRC meeting links are in there, along with the recaps, which are just a really wonderful way to take a look at what happened during the CRC meeting. If you couldn't actually attend in person, Marcy Merningham does a really fine job at putting that in a nice little neat document. It's also a way to connect with people. We have a chat feature in within the website. So if you have questions or if you have comments, that'd be a great place also, Ilana, or anyone, if you're having difficulty or if a link isn't working, you can write in one of the chats and just alert us to that. That would be really helpful. So the website's number one. Then we have a Facebook group. And the Facebook group is really, we have a subcommittee within the Outreach and Engagement Committee who is dedicated to developing our social media presence. And so the website and the Facebook group are sort of the bread and butter of what we do in the social media subcommittee. And the group is also fairly new, so I think it's a little bit newer than the website even. So again, something we're developing, we're editing, we're adding to every week. And really the goal with the Facebook group, like any other Facebook group, is to give you updates, post, anything that is happening with Watertown Forward. And also this is a more effective way for people to connect with each other. Because it's a group, you can post anything that you find interesting. We have discussions about CRC meetings. Really, there's nothing off the table. We do have obviously admins that are monitoring what goes on the page, on the group rather. But this is really where we're trying to guide people to really feel more engaged in the process. So feel free to check us out there and leave a comment or dive into any of the conversations that have already been started. And then we have also, Emily mentioned our charter chat, which is the next slide. And this is really exciting. I'm very excited about the charter chats because I don't always, as a resident of Watertown, I didn't always feel like I knew what was going on during the CRC meetings. I'm fairly new to town politics. And so for me, I loved helping to brainstorm about this event, and I'm also helping to facilitate it at times because it really helps people have a conversation that's a little bit more down to earth about what's happening in the CRC meetings. And also we usually pick a topic either that was brought up at the CRC meeting or something more relevant to town governance, and we dive deep into that topic, and it changes every charter chat. So these happen the Sunday following the Tuesday CRC meetings, and all are welcome to come and attend. And it's a grand old time. What can I say? I have fun. So you should come and check those out. We also have a working group within the Outreach and Engagement Committee that is specific to brainstorming different ideas that we can bring to the charter chat. It's sort of a working group. We're always trying to really cater to what the attendees are asking for. We have a lot of polls that happen within the charter chats. So that's pretty much it for that piece. So I think next I'm going to hand it off to Nancy Hammett to talk a little bit more about community outreach.
Okay, can you hear me? I guess some of this has already been mentioned, but we just want to talk not just about the mechanisms, but kind of how we've tried to get the community outreach going. I think as be obvious from Emily's description of what we're about trying to really achieve engagement and communication. And we're trying to up Watertown's game in that regard. And so in our own efforts, we're trying to explore and model good ways of getting the word out, getting people engaged. And that's a challenge, even in a place as small as Watertown. We're a lot of different parts of the community. And so communicating across them and connecting is definitely a challenge. And we're trying to up our game as a community. So when we began, we sort of started by connecting with all the organizations that the many people that were involved in getting this going were connected to, whatever their groups were, whatever the neighborhoods were, whatever. So we sort of we had a kickoff meeting and tried to get the word out by just communicating through other organizations. and we are trying to build our capacity to inform and engage and connect. You've already heard, we try and get the word out about the CRC meetings themselves, about the recap summaries that Marcy does about any events that are happening or that will be happening, as well as the charter chat. So there's a lot of information we're just trying to get out, and we're trying to get better and better and better at that. And hence the website, the MailChimp email list, and any ideas people have about ways we could do that better, that would be great. Next slide. I'm now going to talk about what our sort of future plans are. We feel like we've accomplished a lot, and there is a lot still to accomplish. We're just scratching the surface. So our first goal is to find new ways to engage residents and promote discussion. It's one thing to inform, but then to sort of find ways to encourage discussion. It might be presentations. It might be small group discussions. We've had a number of people involved were involved in a kitchen table conversation experiment that I think we could draw on to promote just informal discussions about specific issues. It might be issue-specific information that we try to work on with the education committee to develop. Again, we're really trying to think about how can we promote conversation. The charter chats are our first major investment in that, but we want to look for other ways as well, where the model isn't appealing to people, the timing isn't good. We want to see how we can promote conversation so people have a chance to talk with each other and learn from each other and develop ideas about how Watertown's governance can improve over time. Second thing is that we particularly want to reach out and engage community members who may find it difficult to be involved, who typically haven't been involved, and that could be due to lack of time. It could be poor internet access, poor knowledge of the issues, language challenges, privacy concerns. There may be disabilities, hearing issues, or other disabilities that make the few ways that we typically offer engagement. I mean, it's going to town hall, to a town meeting, or maybe, you know, a Zoom meeting, but that doesn't reach everybody by any means. So we want to really experiment and innovate in ways to broaden the ability of all of our community to be involved in important public conversations. So next slide. And just in terms of this sort of broadening and expanding and innovating in our engagement is, we're just at the early stages, and sorry, this is a little bit of a busy slide, but we want to keep expanding our outreach to other Watertown groups, and we're going back to the people we've contacted before. It might be the senior center, it might be the VFW, it might be the food pantry, it might be all sorts of groups. Want to get regular updates of information out and ask for their help in doing that, distribute to your members. And also at this point to start looking for people who might be interested, groups that might be interested in collaborating on presentations or small group conversations. Maybe one of the faith groups would like to have a conversation or a discussion where we want to support that, maybe offer facilitation help, maybe offer information, but look for ways through other groups to expand our engagement toolkit, I guess. Again, mentioning the harder to reach community groups, we want to actually go interview organizations that serve those groups to learn more about their constituents, to find out how their constituents interact with the government and what challenges they have, and how can those communities' voices and needs best be heard in the charter review process. So I think we have a lot of learning to do depending on the particular part of the community, and I think we're going to be going through a process of interviewing organizations. Again, we're very interested, one, in having people join us in that interviewing process, but two, just to hear from people about, oh, make sure you talk to so-and-so. And then as we've already gotten feedback about our social media platforms, they're new. We're trying to make sure that we improve the consistency that in what you can expect from us and how you can find things. And so we're continuing to work on that. And I think that's been one of our great accomplishments. The social media group has I think really, I would say, upped our game, and we're smoothing it out and improving it all the time. So thank you to that team. And then again, the Charter Chat design, that is also something that's sort of, I feel very, I can say this because I haven't been directly involved, but I feel very proud of our team in the kind of model we've developed, and the engagement and the conversation we've had. But it's in early days, and we're going to continue to experiment with different topics, different ways of running them. So again, ideas that people have are very welcome. And this is, I think, describes where the O&E committee is going next. And I think that's it for us. I'm going to turn it over to Larry.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Larry Raskin here. I just wanted to respond to something Shanti put in the chat and that Janice started to respond to. And it was a question about what do we hope to achieve by people getting involved here. So again, our purpose here is to educate, engage, and empower people. So some of the outcomes are by us getting more aware of what's going on with the Charter Review Committee. People have a chance to give input to that committee, ask questions, give a voice, express their ideas. As you may know, at some point, the town council is going to vote on some of the recommendations from the Charter Review Committee. And that's also going to go out to the community. There's going to be some things. It's very likely that the people who live in Watertown are going to have a chance to vote on some things. So I think we all feel like we want to be well educated on what's going on and have influenced some of the decisions. So those are some of the reasons. And of course, those of you who want to get involved, we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, will have to shape even more how we might have a stronger voice directly through the Charter Review Committee, and also just to stay connected, involved in town government, even after the Charter Review Committee. Some people are getting connected through this process, and we hope that that will endure afterwards, because we obviously all have a vested interest in what goes on in Watertown in terms of how governance takes place. So what we want to do is continue that topic and some related ones. We wanted to take advantage of your time here and ask you a question. And we're going to do a little brainstorming here, and we're going to capture some of this on a whiteboard. And so let's just go back, staying on the slide, on your ideas slide. If you could just think for a moment about an important question, which is how might we do a better job actually to engage Watertown residents in the Charter Review process and just, interest in town governance. So if you could think about that for a moment, and then you have something you'd like to say, we'd encourage you to put your hand up under participants, or some of you may be able to do that under reactions. We'll call on you, I'll call on you, offer your idea. Maybe it'll trigger a thought from someone else. We prefer you do it this way so we can all hear what you have to say. If you want to put something in the chat, we'll watch the chat as well and bring your comments in that way. So could you now just take a moment to, if anybody has something you'd like to add and help us all with how can we do a better job overall engaging people who live in our community. And please click your raise hand and we'll get your thoughts. Marcia, it looks like you've got the first one. So if you would unmute yourself, and what do you think?
So, I'm the chair of the subcommittee, communications subcommittee, which has pretty much completely been co-opted. So we're not really able to do a whole lot, which I'm very frustrated with. So I would really think it would be good to for people to write about this in a lot of the platforms like Facebook and Nextdoor Watertown, and just to write in ideas or start discussions, because I think that will get people involved if you start to do that. And it might be a way more, just drive people to your website and to the town website, where they can download agendas and the minutes and all of that stuff if we ever get the minutes. And I think that might be, a good thing. And I'm hoping that the website will eventually contain some of the things that I've been asking for, but I've been pretty much prevented from talking to the IT person now. So I can't really do anything. So anyway, but if you keep writing and asking for things, I think that's a really good idea.
Thank you, Marcia. And we all appreciate the efforts you've been putting in and trying to get this going. And we want to compliment with an E, support all of everyone's efforts there. So that's an idea we'll definitely take on board. It looks like Jackie and then Ilana. So why don't, Jackie, do you want to offer a thought or an idea?
Well, I'd like to hear more about what Marcia was referring to, if she can be more specific about the frustration and what she's been advocating for. I'm not sure. What I was going to say before I heard her comment was something I've been bringing up since I started attending these, which is we talk a lot about involving people, but we're not talking about what we're involving them with concretely. And I know that's difficult because we can't take positions, but we can pose concrete things that would make people aware who aren't involved in this kind of stuff normally, what the, what's it called? Like, just to let them know what it means to be involved. It's like, we want you involved, go to Facebook, go to the Nextdoor, go to this, but for what? Like, what is it? Someone else said, well, when can you take positions? When can you make, proposals? So it's a little frustrating because I feel like it's a little bit abstract, what we're talking about. But I would like to hear more from Marcia. And the other comment I wanted to make is, are there flyers? Are there physical things that we could, take? I would walk around the neighborhood. I would, find out when the union meetings are and distribute them. I don't know, just different people. I like the fact that Nancy was bringing up different groups that might not normally be looking for this kind of thing, but need to be involved. But I think we also need something physical to, bring to churches, put it on tables if people physically go, or to make an announcement. That
Great idea, Jackie. Thank you for that. So let's keep generating some of these ideas, and we'll have to figure out either today or sometime soon where maybe we can get some more information from Marcia. Want to make sure other people who have some ideas and want to offer a comment have a chance to do that. So let's see, Ilana, I think you're next.
You're muted, Ilana.
Again, okay. I second the things that Jackie was just saying. One, that I do want to hear more what Marcia was talking about. And also, it feels like we're talking about instead of like, okay, I have input I want to give to the Charter Review Commission, but I'm not on the commission. So how can we really get information or requests to them, or even get an issue put on their agenda? Even if Watertown Forward can't take a position, we can state the issues, but how do we get to that? I just feel like there's an extra layer of something in between us here. We need to be able to actually connect to people, to connect to these people and this process more directly, or by the time we do that, it's going to be too late. They will have made their decisions.
Okay, thank you, Ilana, for that. Lisa?
Hi. Hi, thanks, Larry. I didn't know I was up. Thank you. No, I was going to say, if people have ideas for engagement, I would suggest sending them directly to Marcia Ciro, who is graciously serving as chair of the subcommittee for the Charter Review Committee of the town. m0@watertown-ma.gov. Any other suggestions, questions specifically to the charter, or thoughts you have or concerns, could go to the CRC, which I believe is CRC at, I'm going to actually have to look that up because Marcia may be able to fill us in, but President Mark Sedaris, President of Town Council, is chair
That
of the CRC.
container next to the fridge
And
is for
so,
you. It has waffles and bacon. That's for you.
yourself.
And there's a bar and
and so anyway, the other option would be, if you didn't want it to go to the whole committee, you could also send it to Marilyn Provenos, who is our town council clerk, who is also currently managing emails coming in for Mark Sedaris, who will then forward to the whole committee. And all their contact information's on the CRC website of the town, which Marcia shared with everybody, I believe, in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. And for those of you who want to follow up and get some information directly, again, as Lisa said, those links, I believe, are on the Watertown Forward website. So you'll find an easy way to get to the place you want to go to get your message to those individuals or to those groups. Dan, go ahead. And you're
Thanks. One thing I was going to suggest, and I don't know exactly how to implement this, but I know that we've been talking a lot about getting like more diversity and more people involved. And one thing that I would suggest considering is that if you ever go to like the Little Kicker program or any of the soccer programs, it's a lot more diverse than some of the other sports in the town in general. So a lot of the influx of minorities that are coming in to the community are younger. And I know that I think the schools now are like 25% Latino, and they all play soccer, or a lot of them play soccer. And my mom's from Argentina, and half the time when I'm coaching, I'm speaking Spanish to them and everything. It's really great. So I think that's an opportunity to kind of reach out, because I know that when I go to some of the committees and stuff, it seems like it's always the same 20, 30, maybe 40 people that are participating in these. So if you wanted to reach out further, I think that might be an interesting place to start.
excellent. Thank you. Thanks for that idea, Dan. Looks like Ted Hammett and then Louise.
Thanks. This may be more, I think it's related both to education and the outreach and engagement, this may already have been done, but it strikes me that an important thing to do, in an important way of engaging more people, is to make clear the connections between the charter review and people's views of how the town is working for them. How the departments of the town, the police and others, are working for them. And I'm not sure that people realize that the charter review can really could potentially, and hope it will, have a positive impact on how the town actually operates on a day-to-day basis. And whether many people in the town understand the relationship between the charter review and what changes could be made through the charter review and the actual day-to-day workings of the town is something that I think is an important matter for both education and outreach. Maybe it's already being done, but.
Okay. Thank you, Ted. That's important to keep all that in mind. Looks like Louise is next, and then we'll go back to Marcia. So Louise, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm just in some ways repeating and supporting what Jackie, Van Leeuwen, Lisa, and Ilana and Ted have just said. I think that we have to reach out to people, not with the abstract idea of learning more about the town or about the charter, but with specific issues that will affect their lives. Do they want the police to have some oversight in our town? Do they want a human rights commission? Do they think we should have a mayor or a town manager? I think we have to hit them with the issues more than about the abstract idea of attending and learning. And we don't have to take sides on these issues, but as the issues crystallize, we need to let people know what the issues are, because that's where it will affect them and that's what will pull them in. I agree somewhat that the process we're engaged in is a little too abstract for people.
Thank you, Louise. Appreciate your observations about that. Marcia?
Yeah, just to answer some people's questions, back in December, we worked with, we were able to get access to Chris McClure and reorganize the website a little bit, but there was still a lot to do. I created an org chart, which you guys have nicely put on your website. Thank you very much. But I have not been able to get up on the town's website. I just, no answer, nothing. So I have, and the other thing that I wanted to do is set up public forum so that people could comment directly on the website. I would like to do some polling. And these are ideas that I had back in December. We all had them. We talked to Chris about, and he had some great ideas of how to do that. Since then, it's floundered. And I was told last week that Mark had to talk to the town manager. And then 4 days later, I found out that I can no longer, they don't want people bothering the IT person. And so now everything that I do has to go through Mark Sedaris. So if I want to fix a link or anything like that, I have to ask Mark. So it's pretty restrictive. And supposedly Mark gave an interview. I didn't know about it, but he gave an interview with Chris on Watertown News where he talked about how he was going to be setting up a forum with Mark, with Chris, and polling. So I'm glad he's at least heard those ideas and may be acting on them, but I can't tell you anymore. So what I would do is, if you want more of a voice, I would really write to him and I would ask him, you know, where are these things? Because as far as I'm concerned, this all should have been set up before we even met the first time. And the fact that we haven't, that we're playing catch up and being held down so much is just really unfortunate. So I would really write to him, and I would write to the other town councilors that you would like to see some action on this.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you for that call to action. And we're glad you're here with us today. You have a voice here, obviously. We're glad to hear what you have to say. A couple more comments, and then I just want to, I think we got one more, and then maybe we'll just check with Emily and Tony. I've got one more slide to just finish up our part. So I think are we okay time-wise for a couple more minutes?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay. Shanti, go ahead.
Hi, so I just wanted to kind of plus one Louise's, the comments about moving this from the abstract into examples or to more concrete things. And one of the ways that I was thinking about that is somewhere on the website, somewhere to share, it might be nice to have actual examples of how to, oh, the light is weird in my house, sorry about that. How to contact whomever on whatever committee, because while it's nice that you all know the emails and the person to talk to about all the things, I don't know any of those people. So if there were examples of like, hey, I really care about Black Lives Matter and infusing that in the town charter, email this here's what this could look like. Some really tangible examples and who to communicate with would be really, really nice. How to submit a proposal, like that actual process. And then the other thing that I was thinking is the Watertown website. It's really challenging to find who my reps are and where my district is and that stuff. So I understand that the website is being a pain and that websites are always challenging. Maybe you should just be going around the website for the moment and posting that on Facebook or something. But it'd be really nice if it was easy to find who I should be emailing. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Well, a lot of great ideas, and we are going to pull this information together, digest it, find a way to communicate it back, take action on the things that people have recommended here, because this is a community effort and we're all involved in it. And we thank you very much for your thoughts and your suggestions and recommendations. Why don't we go to the next slide, and I'll just finish up this part. So if we could, there we go. So again, we very much welcome your help as we're doing now. And if you have some time and energy and interest and want to connect, we're, as you know, doing community outreach, social media, events, brainstorming, lots of things that have come up here today. If you want to talk further with anybody on our committee, Alice and Nancy would be happy to chat with you. You can contact them via their emails there, or you could put your information, your name in the chat and just say ONE interest, and we'll make sure somebody reaches out to you. And your time involvement, we're very flexible about this. You know, we're all doing this as volunteers. We've had people who give an hour or two every week or two, and other people who are more interested or have more time spend more time on that. So lots of flexibility around how we can connect. And we hope will find ways to make something work for you in terms of what you're most interested in and that works for you with your schedule. So if we could go to the next slide, just to finish up our this section, we wanted to just leave you with a thought. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about, from Margaret Wheatley. We think this is a good message for all of us, and we hope to stay connected and talk with you further. So thanks, and I'll turn it back over to, I guess, to Emily, who will take us to the next section.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your comments and discussion. That was really beneficial. So I'll be passing on to the Education Committee, and they'll go through a little bit of what they're doing and some of their plans and volunteer opportunities. So Marcy.
I am muted. Okay. I am going to turn it over to Tony because he's going to introduce this section. I'm Marcy Murdingham. I'm chair of the Ed Committee, and I think we have ways in which we can respond to many of the comments that have been made, because we too are beginning to zero in on particular issues. Keep in mind, we are responsive to both the behavior of the Charter Review Committee, and then also the information that is coming to us from outreach and engagement, as well as our collective knowledge of various issues that are bubbling to the surface all the time. But I'm going to turn to Tony to begin the first part of our discussion and then wrap it up after he finishes. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Marcy. I just wanted to, as you see, there are the members of the committee, there are some hardworking folks on the Education Committee, as there are in the Outreach and Committee, Engagement Committee. Before I go to the next slide, I just want to say I've been keeping the time, and I cut Emily off a little early, unfortunately. So I used up 10 minutes. She had 10 extra minutes if she had more questions, but so that we're going to have plenty of time for conversation, more conversation. So if there's questions that we come back with, we're doing very well on the timing. So the next slide, please. So what have we been up to? We have been developing educational materials, as I think we'll see a little bit in the next slide. We have these wonderful, and this is Marcy's work, these wonderful charter recaps. The minutes to the Charter Review Committee's meetings are a little bit behind. They just sent us the second meeting in October minutes, and we've had at least 4 meetings since then, 4 or 5 meetings since then. So the recaps that Marcy does are excellent ways to understand what happened in the Charter Review Committee meeting. So we're also, Ivana is in the process of doing a town survey, which will give us more information about what people are interested in, and that's still always in progress. The next slide, please. So a little bit of actually what are some of the actual pieces that we have. We have 3 pieces that talk about how the charter can be changed. They are one on adopting and revising the charter, one on revisions or amendments, and then one on amendment of a charter through what's known as the proposed method. We here now have the option of using 2 of these methods to change our charter. You can read about all 3 of these on the website. And a shout out again to Vanna, who took a lot of words and made them into very nice graphics that explain these 3 ways the charter, our charter or any charter in the state, any city or town's charter can be changed. We did our first take at what is called Watertown town government, a first look of about 20 slides, trying to outline what Watertown's government is, going over the elected officials, the council and school committee, library trustees, talking about their responsibilities, who they are, the names and so forth. This is a very good, someone asked about who's your town manager, who's your town councilor. This would be a helpful tool, I think. We also covered the role of the town manager in quite detail. Thanks to Dan and a little bit of help from Dan's mom, we have been able to turn the Watertown town government first look into Spanish. So you will see that on the website also. So those are the documents that we've prepared for use by the Ed Committee or just generally anybody. So we can move on. I think I do this too. I can't say enough about the recaps. They're just wonderful, wonderful works, because they're not only a sort of a summary of what happens, they're full of a lot of information. So they contextualize the overview of the meeting, put it into a format that's enjoyable to read. And then Marcy includes a number of links to background material that was mentioned in the charter review, in the CRC, so that you can go right to it. And then also there's this holistic approach she talks about in putting the framework into our principles to programs to practice. So, what are our topics? How did that lead us to some actual practices? And I think I turn it over. Can I see the next slide, please? We turn this one over to Marcy to take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Our future plans are our current plans, actually, and it's kind of been the way we've tried to navigate from day one. Our overall meta goal, our big goal, is to foster better self-governance. And that has to do with civics, what I think of as being civic stewardship, both at an individual and institutional level. Now, that's a big, big abstract idea, but it becomes real in thinking about the charter as our constitution. It is a set of statements. To some extent, it reflects, although it's something that could be articulated more clearly, sort of priorities and values of the community. But on its own, it's more of a skeleton of how the town is working in a very narrow sense. It's more a set of almost vaguely described job descriptions that doesn't really tell you what people do on a day-to-day basis. So, as already has been apparent here, there are problems with what people do on a day-to-day basis. So I think our challenge is to align the aspirations of good governance, self-governance, with the reality of day-to-day institutional and individual behavior. As mentioned before, because we are in an intermediary role between the Charter Review Committee and then the general population of Watertown, its residents and members of the community, we are trying to respond both to the information needs that emerge, but the issues that are beginning to rise up. And already, I think, as people have correctly said, there are some hot button issues or some clear sort of matters of concern that are more likely to draw people in. And I believe that we will be getting to that. But for the moment, we are responding to the combined expectations of the Outreach and Engagement Committee, the issues that are being raised at the Charter Review Committee's meetings, and then of course what we are hearing during the charter chats and what might be on future charter chat agendas. Next slide, please. In terms of objectives, in the spirit of emergent design, the challenge, and I think this is true for all of us, we're trying to sort of maintain a dual focus. One is keep our eyes on the horizon in terms of what's coming, what's down the road, but also be in a position to be aware of what's happening now and where are the information gaps. We are in the process of continually updating. I think Angela Robinson has already raised the question of what is a charter review process? How does it work? What is its relevance to me? I think that's the number one concern. Why should I even care? What's its relevance to me? Well, we're trying to sort of keep that process going by answering those questions in ways that make sense. And Tony has been a true civic educator as well as a town official in helping us to communicate those realities. But in addition, there are some specifics now that we're beginning to turn to, both because they are being raised by the community and also on the Charter Review Committee, but also because we know that they are being raised by other communities, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. And we are in the process now, and this is where we could use some help, and I think this will begin to be a place, an entry point for people to join with us, to focus more specifically on some of these substantive areas that are likely to be part of this charter review. One of them is the issue of vision and values. What are the kinds of beliefs that we have about this town? What kind of town do we want to have in the next 10 years? And what are we doing to get there? What are the problems that we see now that could be improved? How can we align town behavior from the government or just in general, the different sort of components of government with the values and the vision we hold dear? And some of that discussion begins to get into the question about the preamble, which many towns have in their charters, other towns don't, but a preamble is sort of a non-legally binding declaration of principles. So that is one area in which some work will be undertaken. It's kind of like, what are the values that then become enacted in practice? One idea that's out there, and I don't know, I've done my own research on this, but it's something I'm fascinated by. I don't know the extent to which we'll get there, but in addition to a preamble, which I think is critical, is the issue of a Bill of Rights. What would a Watertown Bill of Rights look like? I'm jumping way ahead here, but I just wanted to put it into the hopper today because I think that is something that's worth considering. Under the issue of accountability, transparency, and responsiveness, well, there's a whole bunch of things going on there. One is the notion of communication and engagement. What are the vehicles and platforms and events and different kinds of tools that are used by other communities that may be touched on in their charter, but are enacted in administrative and public life that promote constituent interaction, better engagement, more collaboration? I think that's really at the very top of the list, affecting both or all branches, the executive, the legislative branches, but also the appointed committees and boards. Also under accountability, transparency, and responsiveness, this is one of my favorites because I see this as a door opener to a whole bunch of other policy realms that many of us care about. What is the nature of reporting and disclosure? What are the metrics that matter? Somebody I think I just saw in the chat, usually in the name of efficiency, the idea that numbers are the only way of really measuring a town's success. Financial metrics are the only way of measuring a town's success. we know now, I've spent most of my professional life, and there are many others too that know that that's not the whole picture. There are other metrics that matter that speak to the qualitative indicators having to do with health, having to do with climate, having to do with human rights, with a range of indicators that more accurately reflect the health of the particular entity. So the notion of disclosure, performance evaluation, what is the baseline? How do we know what is working now? Where do we want to be, and how could we get there?
Marcy, I just want to give you about 2 minutes.
Okay, fine. I get all up on it. Connection to previous initiatives, operating environment reality, that's another one. Finance and budgeting, that's budgeting, of course, but also how can we more fully leverage our assets, the non-financial assets, in service to outcomes we're seeking. And then DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, human rights, climate risk and resilience. These are all bits and pieces of topics and that lead to that can point us to best practices that other cities are attempting that can then be adopted by Watertown, partly perhaps in the charter in the form of different provisions, but more importantly, in the context in which government works. Next slide, Pete, please. So we're looking for help on a number of fronts, but put simply, we're looking for help on gathering information to mobilize material information that might help us see what other towns are doing. We are looking for content creators to help convert that material into accessible form, whether it be through storytelling, through reporting, through verbal or written means, or through graphic means. So that can help us create educational materials that are needed for various outlets and various groups of people. And finally, as you've heard already, we welcome more help from translators to help us with some of the multilingual translation, including signing, because we are a diverse community. Next slide, please. So our discussion question is a very open one. What kind of information do you need that would help you better engage and become knowledgeable about the charter review process? And I'll just leave it at that. Any questions? I'm hearing silence.
Jackie?
I don't know really how this could be done, but maybe could there be little subgroups of people who want to kind of formulate a cohesive kind of, proposal about any of these things that were just brought up that, I mean, just sort of to advance, or it sounds like people are saying, if you know enough, then just put things out there. Is that what I'm understanding at this point? Or is there a way to kind of pull people together, even though maybe Watertown Forward is not in a position to do that? They're just sort of trying to pull people together, but not take positions. I'm a little confused about that, but I guess I'm wondering, is there a way to kind of get to that step of, at least a subgroup, sort of like, okay, as a subgroup, and then other people can join in because it's been formulated, and I don't know. Anyway, it's just thought.
Tony, do you want to take a shot at that before I do?
I don't want to answer it just yet. I want to see if there's some other questions, and then I'll ask, we'll take a look at it. Yeah. If there's no other questions, I'd be happy to, other people have some, what information do you need to better understand and engage in the charter review process? Maybe people don't need much more information. Maybe they're ready to go.
I think
there's a question from Marcia.
Oh, okay. I'm bad at seeing questions here, so
All right, Marcia, and then Meryl has a question too. Marcia and then Meryl.
There was at some point some talk at the first few charter review meetings, and Tony and Lisa, I don't know if you know any more about this, but of having a sort of like a public forum of some sort where that you could do education, kind of like you guys have been doing on your charter chats, which have been great, but from the town. And I don't know if there's been any movement forward in that. I think the Collins Center was going to try to put something together, and we were kind of waiting, I think, until they had presented some of their speakers, like they have over the last couple of weeks. But I'm just not sure if maybe we should bring that up and try to do something like that townwide.
Meryl?
I'll just say that, do you want me to answer that or no?
No, we can answer them later. Yeah, we'll come back to them.
I'm not sure how this is related, but to information, but it looks like Watertown Forward in some ways is running a parallel charter review. And we're suggesting all sorts of things that we think the charter review committee should be doing and that they're not doing. Is there a way of informing the charter review committee of things that the public would like them to do that they're simply not doing?
Good question. And Janice, did you have a question?
Yeah, it just occurred to me, I would be interested from an education standpoint to attend something where the actual home rule charter is broken down. Because that's not something that I went to very easily on my own. You know, and then once I had it in front of me, you know, breaking down each section, you know, I think to really help people understand concretely what is the charter and what's the language in it, and therefore what can be changed. It might be helpful to have some sort of, you know, education presentation with the charter actually up on the screen, looking at each section. And from that could be born some discussions about how might the language change here to better serve us. I would personally like to attend something like that.
Mm-hmm. Ted?
Yeah, I would just, I think this question is one of the answers to this question is what I said before, which is information needed to better understand and engage is what specifically are the connections and the implications of specific ways that the charter may be changed for the actual specific day-to-day operation of the town government. And conversely, how can people see that their concerns or concerns that they have about the day-to-day operation of town government could be reflected in specific changes to the charter through the review process.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Angela?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, so I'm one of these folks who, this is my second meeting, so I can kind of give you a fresh take, which is that I want to be able to attend a couple of meetings and come out feeling like I understand who the players are, what the questions are, and what the process is. And I'm not at that point yet. I mean, there have been a lot of meaty, juicy, informative things shared today that are starting to put sort of a puzzle together, but I don't have some of the fundamentals yet. So I've been given links to places I can go and look at those and say, okay, does that fill in the picture? Anyway, if there's some way that I can be helpful as sort of new eyes coming to it also to say, hey, it would be great to communicate with people and start with, this is the basics. This is what the charter is. This is what the the process looks like. If I can be a set of eyes coming in fresh after I've looked at those other resources and help the conversation. I think that a goal would be to have someone could attend a couple of meetings and feel like, okay, I know the lay of the land and now I'm ready to take the next step. And I don't feel that way yet.
Okay, and then Nancy.
I've been thinking that one way to tackle the getting to specifics and having people be able to talk with each other about a particular interest is maybe to find some case studies of something that hasn't gone well in your experience in Watertown, or we need to improve something. Watertown Forward isn't going to develop a proposal around that, but maybe could be a way that people could connect if they're interested in a particular area, and then take a case study and just say, well, what happened? Why did it go wrong? And extract from that what kind of change would have to happen for it to go better the next time, what communication broke down, what opportunity to provide input wasn't there, what exactly was missing, and then say, okay, is that a charter review? So sort of starting with a very concrete case study and building up is the way I tend to think about it. I don't have a specific proposal I want to bring up now, but I think that I think part of the problem is we're feeling a bit rushed because this whole process is in a sense rushed, and we're being faced with some very big decisions early. We don't have the luxury to do a lot of exploring without recognizing the time frame, but at least that's how I'd like to think about going around some of this.
And Merle, did you have a second question, or is your hand up from the first?
No, it's very quick. I think that Marcy's recaps are beautiful, and that kind of information can give Angela the sort of overview, and perhaps the recaps ought to be circulated more and maybe reviewed at the beginning of each charter chat.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Well, I think a couple of these things might deserve a little bit of answering. So I don't, we have 5 minutes left to our section here. So I thought maybe I would just take a look at the first one that was there, the subgroups. I think this is a larger question of what are we going to do about when are we going to have some specific suggestions of what should change in the charter, and how those suggestions, why people put those suggestions out. Are they put out to solve what problem? I like Nancy's idea of going backwards, to case studies, but I don't think we have the time for that. The CRC is going to be moving quickly into issues that people may want to have some input to talk about before any vote is taken. I think that what we might want to be able to do in the next few meetings of the charter chat is, besides taking a look at what happened at the meeting already, and which is what we do, we take a first part of the meeting is to use the charter recap and tell people what happened at the meeting. The second part of the meeting, we might want to start talking about, well, they've been identified as issues. An issue of accountability has been identified. What would you think should happen to make the town manager more accountable, or town councilors more accountable? And so that we begin to have those discussions, and we begin to formulate some proposals. Now, that doesn't mean that we as a committee, as an organization, support those proposals, but what we do we're engaging with people who have those ideas, and maybe they would like to meet in private or meet offline and talk about the proposals that were discussed, and then maybe bring those directly to the Charter Review Committee. So I think we need to start to take our charter chats and have our second part of each charter chat be devoted to a particular topic that we know has been addressed by the CRC. It's been addressed by the CRC, has been floated around in the charter chat and charter notes, and have a discussion of it. For example, one of them might be, how do we increase transparency in town government? Is that something that should is a problem? People talked about at the Charter Review Committee, people talked about not knowing who they go to for answers to problems they're having. Is there something that could be addressed through the charter? Is there something that could be changed in the charter to address that question? So I do think you're hitting on the essence of what makes this important. That is, what are the things that people want to be changed? No, what are the problems people are facing, and how can the charter changes or amendments to the charter help them reach the answers to those questions? Now, maybe the charter is not the appropriate avenue. Maybe the only way to figure that out is to talk about it. So that's a long answer to the question of how do we become more specific? We become more specific by being more specific in the charter chats. Yeah, I don't know if Marcy, you wanted to take a crack at some of this.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Tony, for that. I mean, this is the messy, raggedy process of emergent design where there's more uncertainties than there are certainties. And some of those certainties aren't ones that are too likable, quite frankly. But we are in this sort of fluid, dynamic situation. And I hear what people are saying. I think we all hear what people are saying, and we'll certainly have some very fruitful discussion as a result of this meeting. I want to just say one more thing about the convergence, in the spirit of convergence. I think it's important for us to view the issues we care about as part of a larger framework that really speaks to how does town government work as a whole, and how does our community work as a whole. The town government is only part of the whole, and there certainly are many things that town government does, but it is really we, the people, who allow that to happen, or encourage that to happen, or have views about why that shouldn't happen. There are many entry points for change. There are elections, there are committees, there are all kinds of things. But the charter itself is sort of the beating heart, shall we say. It lacks a soul in the sense that it hasn't yet articulated what it stands for. That's something maybe we need to do. But at the end of the day, the issues that emerge will be ones that have emerged in previous years and maybe got shot down, or are new and haven't really been considered, or are being viewed in a new light. So even as it feels abstract, I think that we are being carried to the specifics by the way in which the Charter Review Committee behaves, and also by the nature of the activism on the ground. So as we work to be the intermediary, we are open to all the ideas and suggestions. And I think that what will emerge are some directions and very specific concretes. This notion of equity, I think, is the one I see as the umbrella for everything. And we are just very grateful that you participated today in our gathering. So we are, is there a timekeeper? What, Emily, is this where I turn it back to you, or the quick answer on preamble Bill of Rights? We don't have one yet. That's something, if you're interested in working on that, let us know.
Okay, that's perfect, Marcy. Right at 4:30, we're going to turn it quickly back to Emily. Emily.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, everyone. I want to respect everyone's time, and wanted to quickly end by thanking you all. We really take into serious consideration your comments and your suggestions and your ideas, because as everyone has mentioned today, this is a fluid process, and in many ways we're reacting to what's happening at the CRC, weekly or bi-weekly, hearing what's happening, but also wanting to get information out and be proactive as well. And so I think there is, a give and take in this. And but we are really excited to hear ways that we can improve Watertown Forward. And to do that, we do need your help. So if you found today interesting at all, or want to get even more involved, feel free to email us at forwardwatertown@gmail.com, or go to our website and click contact us or chat with us there. We also have a Facebook page, as we said earlier. And just 2 quick upcoming events. This Tuesday at 6 p.m. is the next CRC meeting. And it is bi-weekly, so it'll happen this week and then 2 weeks from now. And then following every Sunday following the CRC meeting is our charter chats. So the next charter chat will be next Sunday, this same time, 3 o'clock to 4:30 next Sunday. So we hope to see you there and hear even more comments and discussions about the CRC, the charter review process, and how we can continue to move this work forward. Thank you so much.
Emily, man, just one quick
Yeah, of
question,
course.
Emily. Just to say that the charter review committee meets on the first and third Tuesday of every month. First and third Tuesday of every, there was something in the chat. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear.
Great, thank you so much. I didn't see the chat. So yes, first and third Tuesdays are the CRC meetings. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Stay safe in that snowstorm this week.
Thank you.
See ya.